Canadian tar sands are the most destructive project on Earth, and we just can't afford to be extracting oil in this way and burning it. We need to be reducing our carbon emissions. The tar sands are doing the absolute opposite, and so we need to shut them down.
What is particularly bad about the tar sands compared to, say, other kinds of oil?
So the tar sands have a much bigger environmental footprint than other sources of oil, because, you know, tar sands isn't oil yet. It's bitumen. It's all mixed up with sand and rock. And geological formations, and so it takes a huge amount of energy and water and other resources to dig it out of the ground, or like melt it out of the ground and then refine it, and it needs to go through several different stages of refining until it can get to the point where you can actually like stick it in your car and drive away. So if you want proof of peak oil, the tar sands are it. You know, it's so much more expensive to extract. It's only economically viable if oil prices remain high.
And what effect are the tar sands having on people in the area?
They're having an absolutely devastating effect. The area impacted by the tar sands is bigger than England, and lots of indigenous people have lived in that area since time immemorial. They weren't consulted about when these companies were going to come in and start digging up their land and creating massive toxic tailings ponds, you know, just upstream from their water supply. They weren't told that, you know, the treaties that they've signed that give them rights over that land were completely ignored, and instead what they've got is the most polluting industry in the world on their doorstep, and it's affecting them in lots of different ways. It's affecting their health because the water's being polluted, the air's being polluted, the animals, the fish that they eat are being polluted, and so they're starting to contract respiratory diseases, autoimmune diseases, rare forms of cancer. You know, indigenous people are dying today because of the tar sands. But it's also affecting their traditional ways of life, because they can no longer go out and hunt the animals that they used to, partly because they're scared of eating them because they might get ill, and because it all tastes funny and you know, the meat looks weird now. But also because the ecosystem's being destroyed, so the animals are either going elsewhere or they're just dying out. So we just heard very recently that the caribou herds in Alberta are now at risk of extinction because of the disruption that the tar sands industry has created.
Well, that all sounds pretty bad, but
it's really bad.
Why are British people getting involved in speaking out against the tar sands?
Well, even though the tar sands are being extracted in Canada, actually a lot of the finance for that comes from London, and a lot of the companies that are in there doing that extraction and making the money out of it are British companies. So the three big British players in the tar sands are Shell, who've been in there for years and years and years. They've got some really, really big extraction projects in there, and they see their future as being very much in the tar sands. 30% of their future reserves are in the tar sands.
Well, they did do very well today, yes. And
they won today, as you saw, you know, and that's no surprise at all. BP are the new kids on the block. They have kept out of the tar sands. They've been the only oil multinational that's actually kept out of the tar sands until now. They've just decided to get in on the act. So they've just signed this massive extraction project called Sunrise. They're going to be extracting 200,000 barrels of oil a day by 2010, and they're due to start development in the second half of this year. So we're very much hoping that if we put enough pressure on them now, you know, they'll pull out before they make that final investment decision. And then the third one is Royal Bank of Scotland. Royal Bank of Scotland are the 7th biggest global investors in the tar sands, and they're investing in all kinds of different companies and different projects connected with the tar sands. So we very much see the tar sands as it's actually part of our carbon footprint. It's not just the carbon footprint of Canadians, and also we're all going to be affected by it because it's the second biggest oil reserve in the world after Saudi Arabia. If all of that tar sands oil is extracted with such huge carbon emissions around it and then burned, it's basically going to tip us over the edge into climate chaos no matter what the rest of the world does. So we haven't really got any choice, we've got to stop it.